Ready.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes. I'm your host with my daughter, Emma Hughes.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Emma. So we do have some sad news to report that on last Wednesday, May 18th, we had to put down Emma's very first agility dog, Millie, watermark millionaire. So Emma, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
Oh, thank you. She's a very good little dog. She taught me a lot of things.
Yeah, she sure did. And actually she taught you, or rather she taught me, you and her together, taught me to think outside the box when it comes to agility training. When you first got Millie and we first started agility, all the equipment was in our back pasture. I could do dishes and watch you through the window train Millie. And there were times when I would watch you and I'd be like, what is she doing? Why? What is she? I mean, you were all of what, 6 years old, 7
You're
years
so
old,
mean,
8 years
6-year-old
old.
me.
Let's see, you were 4 years old when we acquired Millie, right?
Yeah, so 5, 6 to train.
And then 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you were training, I think let's see. I think in 2010. So you would have been 7. I think in 2010 was when you had your first trial with her, right? So you trained up to then. And when you were training, I remember at times just going, oh my gosh, that is not how you do that. But you were safe, right? You're doing things safely. And so I let you just do what you were doing with Millie and didn't worry about how you were doing it as long as she was safe. That was my biggest thing is Millie safe? And so you did the triple backwards.
I remember that was a big one. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You can't do the triple backwards, the triple jump. And so you did the triple jump backwards. You used to cross the bars. So instead of them being straight across, you'd make an X, like a jump, a horse oxer.
Oh, right.
And so
Okay.
you'd have them crossed. And no, this is how the horses do it, Mom. This is how you're supposed to
I
do it.
wanted a horse so bad.
And
Oh,
what that did is it made it higher on the edges and lower in the center, right? And so Millie was jumping higher than she would normally jump. And although you were jumping her 12 inches when you first started competing with her, so maybe you were doing 12 inches on the sides. Anyway, and then the last thing that you used to do, and this one I kind of went back and forth on whether or not to stop you, but Millie was performing it so incredibly well that I didn't bother to stop you. And that was, you used to send her to the dog walk while you stood in the middle of the dog walk. Do you remember that?
I remember that. And I remember, I think I did it once while you were out there. And I remember you being like, oh, and it's weird how you grow up because I would never do that with Dot now. But
Right?
I vividly remember. And the issue with Millie, though, that could have been an issue is that Millie had amazing, not to brag, but she had incredible running contacts. I mean, they were natural, 100% natural. We never really trained them.
But this is
And so
going,
Millie,
this was talking
but
about
so
going,
my point being, though, is that she would line herself up for the
yes,
dog walk at full speed and she would continue full speed down the dog walk. And so there's never any stopping at the end. She never slowed herself down. She would just like a car almost taking a corner and then she just go up and over and down. And it was, oh my God, looking back, I'm like, who taught this dog these things? Because I sure didn't.
well, the up contact is what I want to talk about. And so she would and you're right, she would turn the corner but she would line herself up far enough back on the dog walk that she was coming up straight, balanced. So
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
main concern that I have with dogs coming up the dog walk on an angle, is that their center of gravity is not fully centered yet when they hit on an angle. And so they're trying to stay on 12 inches at full speed while on a bend, right? So imagine you're on a racetrack and you're going up the side of the wall to what do they call that?
I call it banking on the corner.
Yeah, you're banking on a corner on an
Yeah.
oval racetrack, either with a bike or with a car. And dogs are similar. And I'm sure that human beings, we bend as well or tilt when we're running on a corner, right?
Oh, I'm sure we do. Yeah,
Right.
I just don't run fast enough to know.
That is true. I feel myself doing it when I drive, right?
Yeah, right.
I lean
Yeah.
into the corner.
Fun fact, that's why Formula One drivers have thick necks, because when they turn, they have to keep their head straight. And so they do like head exercise. We should do that in agility.
Well, going back to Millie. So
Poor
she
Millie.
would turn the corner to go up the dog walk, and it was as if she had already gone far enough out, balanced her body to hit the up ramp at full speed. And that was one of my that is one of my main concerns, and it was one of my main concerns back when she was young. But that going from the side, being sent from the middle of the dog walk, I think it taught her stronger dog walk context.
Oh, 100%.
I think it taught her how to balance herself on the dog walk. Now, granted, she was all of 12 pounds, 13 inches.
Right.
So she
and I
wasn't
wasn't running fast enough to like garner a world record here. We're
true.
not going very fast.
You weren't encouraging her to speed up.
No.
Right. So she would catch you by the bottom of the dog walk again because you were so
My legs
slow.
are like, I don't know, 3 feet long.
And so maybe that combination is why it worked so nicely, is that she had great sense of balance. She had great body preservation.
She was a good girl.
Right. She was never a reckless dog at all. So that definitely contributed to it. So anyway, but my point of this is the podcast that I would like to do today is called what I call around the clock training. And that the way that you send her up the dog walk would be considered around the clock training, sending her from, like, let's say that the dog walk is on a 12 to 6 timeline. You were sending her up the number 6. So we're on a clock, right? We're on a clock.
Yes, we'll explain this in like 2 minutes.
No, let's explain it now.
Oh, because I wanted to say, my last thing I wanted to say for Go Get 'em Agility listeners, if you ever look at our logo, that's Millie on our logo. And I was very proud of that. I was like, yeah, Millie's a businesswoman now.
That's cartoon Millie.
Yeah, cartoon Millie. It's not Dot, despite what some people might think. It is Watermark's Millionaire.
That's true.
So yeah, on to our podcast.
Any other thing you want to say about Mill?
I don't think so.
Do we want to give her nicknames?
Oh, well, Millie had a lot of nicknames, I guess.
Here's one fact you may all not know about Millie, is that we use Millie's name when we make reservations for dinner.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Because nobody can spell Margaret. Nobody can pronounce, when we say John, they always, what do they call your dad?
They're always like Joe.
Joe, yeah. They always call him Joe. And then Emma's too common.
Yeah.
Right? So we always use
Emma
Millie.
and like 3 people stand up.
Yeah, when we make reservations, we make it Millie for 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and occasionally they do spell it Milly, which I think is fun.
That's true.
Because that is how we spell Millie.
Yeah, and Millie is with a Y and Dottie is IE.
Yeah, I should have done Dottie Dotty. But I think that would have I think people would have gotten really annoyed at that. They're like, really? You did it with Millie. Now you're doing it with Dot. Like, this is too much.
They can't handle it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about around the clock and what we mean by that.
I have a question about around the clock. Is this something that you have brought up? Like, is this something that you have created? Or is this something that, like, is it like a Susan Garrett thing? Or, because I've only ever heard around the clock from you. And I've not really gone to many other trainers, but I've never heard it from anybody else other than you.
Well, I hesitate to say that I came up with it, but I can't think of where I pulled it from.
Oh, so you came up with it.
Well, I don't know if I came up with it, but I mean, I'm sure other trainers have mentioned it to me.
Yeah,
And I'm
probably.
sure that, I mean, we do it in obedience. We would do, where you'd go all the way around your dog in a stay. We wouldn't call it around the clock, but
No.
so in general, I've done a lot with doing things from all angles, all directions.
Well, you've done it I remember doing it with Millie when she was really young, so that's at least 15 years.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's something I came up with or not, but I don't want to take credit for it because I definitely pull. I mean, where did I learn all this stuff from? Somebody else, right? I mean, Gene Donaldson was a massive influence in my dog training career. Who's massive influence? Nancy Guy is a massive
Nancy Guys
influence
is
for
good,
me
yeah.
in agility. And so yeah, and I mean Lisa Ross probably did it with me sometime. Suzanne was one of my very, very first trainers. I can't remember her last name now, but Suzanne with she had Borzois. Yeah, she was pretty good too. She had Borzois. And then Lori, I went to Lori. She had Papillons down in California. Anyway, so and then I've done a ton of seminars. Did all the Power Pause camps, early days of Power Pause camps, with Nancy Guys and Jim Basic. So yeah, I'm sure I heard it from somebody somewhere along the way. All right. So what is it?
Well, I was just going to venture to say that I think that the introduction of the clock is like was the beginnings of technical agility. You know, that was like the first time when people started thinking, oh, well, let's make this technical training
What?
wise. Yeah,
Really?
because I remember that we did the clock way before anybody had ever touched a backside in AKC. So
Well,
I'm not
then
talking about the
maybe
international people, because the international people have been doing their own thing for a very long time. But like we did around the clock when I was like, gosh, probably 6, right? So that was 2009. Nobody was doing like backsides or like running contact training or all these technical agility things that we talk about now, like all the things that you've done with Eli, like paw awareness, where are your back feet, can you go around these jumps in a circle, can you do you know what a wing is? Nobody was doing that, but people were doing the clock, or we were doing the clock.
I don't want to say nobody was doing it because
Yeah, but like it wasn't mainstream.
you go back on some old videos
Mm.
and no, there's hints of it.
Yeah,
So
well, go get them, agility listeners. If you're like, Emma, you're wrong, let me know.
I just
Email
think
me.
I just think you're young. I just don't
Maybe.
think I think that you absorbed all this stuff that you did, but you don't know where it came from.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I know that we've been watching videos on YouTube because you used to make videos with your stuffed animals.
Gosh, oh, nobody's allowed to look that up.
We should find those old videos. So I know
That's what
that
I
you
was
were
in
on
fear.
YouTube because I would allow you to watch Webkins videos, and I
Okay,
would
all right, okay,
and,
okay. Beep, 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 beep.
and I would allow you to watch dog agility videos. So I know that there are videos out there, and I'm sure you just don't remember watching them. You
Yeah,
don't remember
totally.
absorbing them.
Anyway,
So
I will tell you what the clock is now.
okay,
Um,
get
I
closer
think,
to your microphone, Em. You're really far away.
can you hear me now?
Kind of. Emma's packing up, and so everything has been put away in her room. She's leaving tomorrow. She's supposed to leave today, and instead of leaving today, she got flight canceled, and she's leaving tomorrow. So we're doing a podcast, but her microphone's on her computer, and it's not very good.
Yeah, well, I'm not using headphones because I accidentally broke them. I broke the $2 headphones that
You got
go
to
with
go
the airline
closer
ticket.
than that.
I
Okay,
don't even know what it is.
maybe I
That
should
better?
tell them what the clock is.
Well, I don't want to tell what the clock is.
Okay, you
Okay,
tell them what the clock is.
so I'm
Speak
going to
very
use
loud.
I'm going to use the weave poles as an example, just because that is, in my head, the most clear example of the clock. And so if you have weave poles, let's just say 6 poles in a line, your dog knows them really well, or they know them well enough, but you want to work on entrances. So the clock is you have your weave poles set up, no other obstacles, and you send your dog straight on through the weave poles, and they
What
go
number?
straight.
What number are they on from that straight?
They're on 12 when
12
they're on
o'clock.
straight.
Okay, and they're
And then
driving. towards.
Yes, but nobody. But I'm trying to explain like the angles first, because then you'll go to 1 o'clock, which
No,
means
no, no,
that
no. Show them where 6 and 12 are. 12 and 6.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, but
12 o'clock is entry. 6 o'clock is exit.
yes,
Okay. So they're
yes,
driving from 12 to 6.
yes,
Okay. Now talk about the angles,
yes.
the numbers.
And then the theory is that you pick a side that you want your dog to enter on. So you either do the left side of the weave poles or the right side of the weave poles, and you go all
You're
the way
on the
down.
left or right. They always
Yes.
enter first pole, left shoulder.
Sorry, you're sending them from the left or the right.
Okay.
Yes. And you go down the number line. And so if you have a clock in front of you, it's probably a little bit easier to visualize this. But you send your dog from 1 o'clock, see if they make it, reward them if they do. You send your dog from 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, which would be a 90-degree angle.
Correct.
Then you would go, gosh, where am I at?
4
4
o'clock.
o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Okay. And then
And
6
then
o'clock.
once you hit 6 o'clock, you don't, well, you could send them from 6 o'clock. That'd be quite hard.
So they're going
But then you
all
flip
the
to
way
the
up to
other
12 and
side.
driving back down to 6.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we could put like a thumbnail or something that shows the clock visually on this podcast. Are you there to put attachments on your little podcast links?
Well, I can put it in the show notes.
Okay, that might work. Because I remember that when you taught it to me, we did it in person, and that made so much sense to me. I was like, yeah, this is great. But I think explaining it on a podcast is
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you've started at 12 and you're working your way. So the dog is going to what is called the hard side, which is you have a soft side and you have a hard side. So you're driving from the hard side. So, and that's hard angle, soft angle.
I have to think about it now. When they wrap around the pole, when you're sending the dog on your left hand, wait.
No,
from sending the dog on your right hand side.
No, stay on 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Dogs are driving from 12. If you're on the hard angled side, you are between 12 and 5 or 5:30. And then the soft sided entrance is from 11, 12 to the other direction to 5:30.
Right. And that's the side where they don't have to wrap around a pole.
They wrap around the second pole, essentially.
Well, they go between the two poles to enter if they have a harsh angle.
Correct. Okay, so the point is that when you're training, to train the entire clock, right? And that way you are training every angle on every obstacle possible. So we're on the weave pole still, but let's take this over to the jump. Okay, so we start, you can start the 12 o'clock anywhere. You can start it in a perpendicular direction towards the jump. So dog is 90 degrees to the direction of the bar, right? This is harder to explain than I thought.
I know, me too.
Okay,
are you struggling? I was struggling.
Let's put the jump in front of us, and we are all toes are facing right towards the bar, the center bar of the jump. That's 12 o'clock. Okay. Dog can be on our right side or our left side. And let's go clockwise around the clock. Okay. So we start at 12, then we move to 1, then we move to 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So now where we started, if that is the front side of the jump, now we're on the back side of the jump. Right. And you still have to set. So my rules, I have different rules. And when I play this game, I set the rule in my head, and then Eli and I have to stick to that rule. So if dog starts on my right and is jumping around one wing, so he started on my right, I'm going to send him around the left wing. So he's going to wrap around the left wing, come back up on my right side. So I'll spin and pick him up on my right side. And then I move to 1 o'clock. He still has to jump left wing, come back on my right. Then I'm at 2 o'clock. He still has to jump towards me, right? So we're doing pole turns essentially the entire way around. Get to 3 o'clock. Now, once we get to 3 o'clock, he's jumping the jump sideways, but he's still wrapping and coming back to my right side. And now I'm at 4 o'clock. He's technically doing a backside, because he has to go to the backside and come back up on my right side. Now he's at 5 o'clock. He's doing a backside again. Then we get to 6 o'clock. He's doing a backside again. He's still going around the same wing that I started him on back at 12 o'clock. And this is where it gets difficult. At 7 o'clock, he's going across the face of the jump, not jumping it, going to the backside and coming back to me on a slice, because now I'm at 8 o'clock. And so now he has to go all the way around the jump, go to the backside, and jump it in a slice back to 9 o'clock. And 9 o'clock, I have to send him all the way around. He's jumping on a slice back to me. And then as I get to 10 o'clock, now he's back on the front side of the jump again. But he's jumping it now in a slice as opposed to a perpendicular 90-degree angle. And we come back to 12. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
Okay, now watch this. Pay attention to this. Now I put him back on my right side. So we're now back at 12 o'clock. He's still on my right side, but instead of taking the left wing, he has to take the right wing. So now we're doing rear crosses, right? We're doing rear crosses now, moving to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and that's a rear cross slice at 3 o'clock. He has to take the jump on the same side of the jump and the same wing every time. So when I get to 4 o'clock, now I'm doing an inside wrap. So I'm going to send him along the back side of the jump. He has to wrap it away from me to jump it towards me. Does that make sense? So he's doing rear crosses on the back side.
I think we should provide a diagram.
I think we need to. I'll include a video into the show notes of me doing this with Eli, because I played around with this. I did a whole bunch of different angles, and he had to leave me on my right side. He had to leave me on my left side. But essentially, I walked around the entire jump with him, coming up on my same side every time, and then jumping the jump in the same direction every time, taking a wrap around the same wing every single time. And it makes for some really difficult angles, which is why I love it, which is why it's a great exercise, because they literally are doing every angle out there that you'll ever see in agility. Well, maybe in my brain, in my world.
I have 2 points to make as well. It's kind of fun as well to watch them start to pattern a little bit. So when the angles are somewhat similar, they might start to pattern if you've been doing it for a while. And that's very important, I think, in agility, is for dogs to learn certain scenarios and they know what to do with them, especially if you have a clear verbal that you're trying to work on. Clockwork is really good for verbal work if you're trying to teach them like a backside, but it's always going to be a backside that you're teaching them. Clockwork's great for that if you're trying to proof verbals. But my second point, and it kind of goes back to the little Millie ode that we gave in the beginning. We talked about her going up the dog walk, and I think that contact equipment, so dog walk, teeter, A-frame, are the 3 obstacles that I would not do a clock on.
Yes.
Just because it's hard. 1, it's hard. 2, it's dangerous, and 3, it's if your dog doesn't have amazing contacts that they hit every time, they're going to get confused on what they're wrong about. And
Correct.
It's the whole thing. And Millie was very lucky that we only did it on the dog walk, and I was sick, so I didn't know, but I wouldn't do it.
I'm really glad you brought that back up, because I would not do the clock system on contacts. Number 1, and we should have put this as a disclaimer at the beginning, and maybe I will. Number 1, when they're coming around that tight on an A-frame, that is a difficult climb for them to do, and you lose a ton of confidence for a dog that's not really pushy and driven. For the dog walk, it's way too dangerous. That 12-inch plank, that if they're coming up at speed, I think Millie was a rare exception. Let me give you I would do it on very, very low dog walk equipment. Very low. In fact, I would only do it
like running contacts or something.
In fact, I would do it more as a movement puzzle, where it's just the dog walk plank that they're
Yeah.
doing this on. So
Yeah.
there I would do it on a dog walk plank, elevated maybe 12 inches off the ground, but not on a dog walk that is over a foot off the ground.
And you can also help them with a cone or a jump stanchion because when we taught Dot her running contacts, we had a jump stanchion that was very, very close to the plank. But it just teaches them to kind of swing their butt out to line themselves up with it.
That's right.
Millie did that naturally, and Millie was very lucky, but obviously Dot didn't because Dot's like, I don't know what that is.
I will be doing it with a very, very, very low teeter once Eli,
Yeah,
but I'll
I
be
think
putting that jump stanchion probably about a foot to a foot and a half
yeah,
beyond the teeter. He has
yeah,
to go around the jump stanchion first to come up onto the teeter. But the
yeah. So it's
teeter will
quite
be
close,
extremely
but
low,
yeah.
extremely low. It'll be maybe hitting a foot off the ground.
Well, and that's just it with like the teeter as well as you know that they're going to stop at the end. They have to. They have to stop. And so the dogs can't get a ton of speed up that teeter. So when they come around that really sharp bend, they don't have a lot of speed anyway. And then by the time they get to the end of the teeter, they're still, not running as fast as they could. Whereas on dog walks, especially today, and a little bit on A-frames, we are teaching our dogs, or I'm teaching my dogs to try to go as fast as they physically can
Right,
on that dog walk without
right,
being dangerous. And so
right.
if you're teaching your dog that to be, to speed up as soon as they hit that plank, well, if you're not lining them up correctly, they're just gonna slide right off.
Yeah.
And the A-frame's quite steep as well.
Yeah.
So,
So the A frame, my gosh, it would have to be such a low A frame
right?
that yeah. And when I teach this for the teeter, first off, he will already be to the point where he's comfortable with the banging of it. So he'll already be comfortable with the noise. He'll be comfortable. He'll understand that he needs to stop. It'll be a very short and middle ground to mimic the movement puzzle. So I'll put a link in for the movement puzzles as well. And once I teach it, then I would back off of it. Whereas weed pulls and jumps, I'll do that throughout his life. Right. But contacts, I'll do it mainly to teach balance and entries, but then I'll back off of it once the speed is gained. Then I'll probably take it out completely, definitely for the A frame and the dog walk.
I think everything else though you can do a walk on, especially tunnels. Tunnels is a
Oh,
fun one to do it.
yeah. Talk about
Um,
tunnels, right?
yeah.
Blind tunnel entries. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much fun. So, starting at the entrance of the tunnel and work your way to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And when they get to 6 o'clock, they have to go all the way back up to, and this would be on a straight tunnel, I would start with.
Yeah, you could do it on a curved one if you wanted to, I think.
Eventually, yeah, but I would start on
Yeah.
a straight
Oh yeah.
and then, yeah, working a macaroni shaped tunnel from the backside. That's difficult for the dogs. They're like,
Yeah.
what? But
That is
so starting
yeah.
straight and eventually curling it up so that they have to take the macaroni tunnel from the backside would be very, very good for them to learn.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else you could do it on. I mean, you could do it on any obstacle really. Um,
Table's the only one. Well, table would be
yeah.
really difficult, mainly because the table sides change
Mm-hmm.
if they're on the backside. So if they run over the table, 12 just switched to 6 and 6 just flipped to 12. Right.
Right.
So you would
Yeah.
never send a dog back around the backside of a table to get back on. Right. They're only ever
Right.
supposed to hit it straight on. So I don't know if I'd do it on the table. That would be the only one I probably wouldn't do it on, but I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
I've never done it so far. I've never done it
I've
where I
never done.
have done it
Yeah,
on
because the
tunnels.
table's quite self-explanatory. I mean, you
Tire
go on
jump, I've done it
and
on
sit.
tire jumps. And I've
You
done it,
do it on tire jumps?
yeah, I've done it on tire jumps, but
Have
more
you done like backsides on tire jumps with it?
absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know,
but
it's interesting. I remember watching one of my teammates do a tire, like it was like an inside slice on a tire jump in Europe during practice. And I remember thinking, why would you do that? But you can, can't you? I mean, it's like a jump, really. I mean, tires are big enough. If you have a smaller dog, the tire's definitely big enough to be okay space wise. Maybe if you had like a bolster on or something, that would be a little bit
Yeah,
harder.
I mean, I've always, yeah, and
But
I
we have
haven't
small
done it.
dogs.
I haven't done the tire much, but I have taught it mostly on a two target training, right? So
Mm.
moving around in the two targets, and mostly I've never done rear crosses on the back side of a tire. That I have not done. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to experiment with that. And for most dogs on the tire, I would venture to say that the tire is going to be more difficult for them to do it
Well,
on.
the only issue is you get like the bigger border collies, especially those new like Galligan tires that everybody's got these days. They're really cool looking.
The loon
If you
tire.
have a Yeah, if you have a border collie that like kicks their legs up and you're doing like a wrap on a tire, that might get a little hairy in the middle.
Well, so I would experiment with it and see if there's a way that I could help my dog understand it without creating a pattern,
mm,
right? I
I
wouldn't do
don't
it so
know.
much. If they're messing up on the tire or messing up on their jumping effort on the tire, then I would absolutely modify my training to either make it easier for them, make more clarity for them, work their jumping
Uh,
effort, or just work easier entrances and avoid for a
the
dog that's having difficulty with it,
the tire
avoid it
is
altogether.
the tire's a lot like the triple. When I used to do the triple backwards, it's like, well, why would you ever do that? And it's kind of the same in a tire in competition. You're never ever going to see a tire that has a weird angle on it.
I know,
Um,
but in
I don't think I would
practice,
ever do a tire because I think it's just too enclosed of a space for them to move. So if you have a big dog and they get their feet caught in it, I mean,
yeah, you don't want that for sure. But I'd experiment with it a little bit. I'd see at
yeah,
what point does it start to look ugly and pull back from there, right?
yeah,
Because there will come a time when your dog will come off the line of a straight entrance to a tire and you'll be pushing them back onto the line and they'll be
yeah,
hitting it on an angle.
yeah. Or if they're like taking it as an off course or something,
Correct.
and you're like, oh, you don't know how to take that. Yeah,
Exactly. So I do see benefit in it, but I wouldn't drill it, right? Like I
yeah.
wouldn't like make it my daily jumping exercises, but I'd introduce it so that there's some clarity for them.
Yeah, I don't know what to think
Same with the
actually.
broad jump.
Oh, I
How
wouldn't
many
do it on a
times have
block
you
jump
seen
ever.
how many times have you seen a broad jump taken poorly
Well,
because they're
yeah,
coming
but I
from
mean, I would never do like a backside on a broad jump. That's just
why not?
because they don't have enough momentum to jump over it.
Okay, so take a few take
If
the
you've
bar
got
down,
a dog that's
take
12
the
inches,
make it go from 3 planks to 2 planks.
if you've got a dog that's jumping 12 inches, they've got to hit 24 inches
Okay, so make
spread.
it make it 15
I don't think
inches.
I'd ever do it on a broad jump. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
that.
would. I have jumped the broad jump backwards. In fact, we
You know,
have
this is fine. I'm talking about you're on the clock at like, I don't know, 7 o'clock, and you send them around the stanchions of the broad jump, and they have to take it technically as a backside.
technically as a backside, yes. And if you needed to help them,
Oh,
add a wing. Okay, we're talking about the broad jump. And
yes.
so we got interrupted. So here we are back
Yeah.
on the broad jump.
Okay.
You would never do the clock system on the broad jump.
I mean, I would do like simple angles. So like if your broad jump is facing towards 6 o'clock, right, and you're starting from 12, I'd be willing to do like 1, 2, or like 11 and 10. But I wouldn't do like a 5 o'clock and send them around the stanchions of the broad jump and over the broad jump just because I feel like the dogs don't have enough momentum.
Did you know that that's
Because so what it
exactly
is, right? Because the broad jump is it's essentially just a jump, but it's flat, right? So if your dog jumps 12 inches, the broad jump is going to be 24 inches, and that's generally what dogs will jump anyway. It's not like it's a big jump or anything. It is basically what they will jump over a bar.
Right.
But my thing with the bar is like with Dottie, especially when I do wraps, which is what she would be doing on this broad jump at 5 o'clock. She lands incredibly close to the jump. She lands so close to the jump that she hits the cones when she lands because she's so close to it. And
Okay.
I just don't think that she could do a wrap on a broad jump without hitting it. And one, she would get sad because she thinks that she's wrong. And two, I'm afraid that her ankle will get rolled or something.
Okay. I concur that there's some safety elements to take into consideration. 100%. So how do we make it safer? We take a couple of the broad jump planks away, and we can
Yeah.
also add a wing in, so make it more of a winged broad jump that they have to go around to help create
Yeah.
a little bit more lift and a better angle for them to jump.
I
But
mean, I'm
them coming off of it is exactly how they jump it in obedience. The handler stands at in the middle of the broad jump, so 3 o'clock if it was the center of the broad jump. The dog is set in a sit stay facing the broad jump, so the dog is
yeah,
at
because
12 o'clock.
they have like two strides before they have to jump it, right?
It's roughly a body length and a half that they sit them in front of it.
Yeah, so they have a little bit of time to jump it though. If you're sending them from a wrap or a jump stanchion that's like a foot away, they can't jump that. I politely disagree with you on this. I think I because you're never gonna see it ever in competition. And I know that your point was that
What
well, it
if
might
they
not be
refuse? What if
competition,
they
but
do a
what if they
refusal? Let me throw you
what if
this scenario. What if
okay.
the handler gets a refusal on the broad jump? So the dog runs around it with the handler, and the
Okay.
handler then circles them back up and puts them on a poor angle to take the broad jump again. That's exactly what we're doing.
Well, yeah, but see, I'm just built different, and I just wouldn't put them on a poor angle.
Well, that's true. Okay,
I
so
would back up a few
I say
feet
then
and
work the broad jump, work the tire jump. And if you're going to do contacts, work the contacts with extreme caution.
yeah, I think it's a bit redundant to do it on the broad jump, especially for big dogs, because like dogs like Jenks, he struggled a ton with having tight wraps and backsides and such. And so with the broad jump, and no, okay, so let me
But
back up.
maybe if I
With a
had done
regular
this with
jump in
Jinx,
any other scenario with the 12 o'clock jumping scenario, you're like, okay, we'll do a backside. You could even use the clock to work tight backsides, right? To get him to be super close to the jump. And so if you then say, okay, well, we're going to do it on a broad jump now, it's a little bit like, oh, well, we just worked you being really, really, really close to the jump. Well, now space yourself out. Now we're going to have you jump, I
an
don't know how
extension, you
big,
mean?
what they say, 42 inches.
Yeah, but I'm
I guess for
telling you
Jinx it'd be
to,
40, but
make
you
it
could take them
smaller.
away.
You keep going back to full height. When
No, I know. I just don't think that
no,
it's
so this is actually an important note that when you first start this, for sure, do it without a bar. Do it with one broad jump plank. Do it really, really small and build upwards. You don't start at the dog's full jump height doing this if they're
no.
struggling. I mean, I would probably not even start it at full height when they're not struggling, is build up to their full height.
I agree with doing a little bit of angle because, you might have a, bad run and you're not getting that angle correct, perfectly correct. But I don't think you should do like a backside on it or a send from like 3 o'clock
I think
with
you're
your
missing.
dog next to you. I get like, the obedience people, they have a little bit of space and time.
I
I
think
I
you're
won't. I disagree with you on this one.
okay, and I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
think I think you're seeing this as something that I would do a lot. I would not do this a lot. I would do this sparingly. I would do it on a jump, I would do it a lot more, but on
Yeah, of
odd
course.
obstacles, I would not. On the triple, I would not do it that much. On the double, I would do it a little bit more.
Yeah, that was not as bad.
But I would do it, but I wouldn't drill it. Just like when I teach a dog to turn around on a dog walk plank, I don't drill it. I teach it
Oh
to it
yeah,
once and
no.
I leave it alone. right? I want to teach it for safety, and then I leave it alone.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I see what you're doing, and I think that it can be beneficial if the dog is fine with it. I just think that if they hit it, because Galligan's got those really tall planks now where if you step on it, it like flops forward. There's actually a really good picture of Dot hitting it, and it's like as big as she is.
Well, okay, so USDAA and I think maybe UKI, they have their broad jumps are taller than AKCs. Oh, and that's what I was going to say.
Well,
Right
I was going to go into my
Hold on.
next point, though, is I was going to say that you don't really need to practice the broad jump anyway, regardless, because it's only ever a novice. If we're an
I
AKC
completely
podcast,
disagree with you there. That is the
okay,
one
no, it's in
obstacle.
UKI, but if you're an AKC person, it's only a novice, isn't it?
Well, for it can be in the upper levels, but it's a pain in the butt
Is
to
it?
build and rebuild, and so judges don't use it that often. But if any judges are listening to us now, Buck says they start putting them back into their courses because we're saying, don't practice the broad jump. You'll never see
punk
it.
Kid said,
Emma, no, they absolutely need to practice the broad jump. I think it is one of the first ones that dogs mess up because they see it as a pause table. They step on it like a bridge.
Right.
So I think it's a brilliant one to train. I just don't know that I would hound the clock system on the broad jump.
No, okay. I wouldn't do the clock system, period. But
how about this?
We've already discussed that.
I'm going to meet you halfway. All right. Work the clock system with just you moving around the clock. The dog,
100%.
The dog starts at 12 every time you move around the clock.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Okay. And same thing for the tire.
Yeah, and same thing for contact obstacles too.
Yes.
Just don't let them turn around on the teeter.
You're everywhere. Yes, I agree with you there. Okay,
cool.
So are we done then?
I think we might be. It's good.
Okay. I'll put up some links of me doing this with Eli on jumps and tunnels. He hasn't learned the tire and he hasn't learned the broad jump. Well, he's not jumping at all. So he hasn't learned anything about jumping. I have done it with you know what? I haven't done this with the movement puzzles, but that's because that's a 2-target game. So I stay on the same side every time, but maybe I will. I'm going to go experiment with that today.
When I get back, because I'll be able to like throw cheese for him.
Yeah, but you don't need to throw cheese because he comes back to you.
Oh,
it's like a boomerang. It's like a boomerang. You send them and they come back to you in a different direction.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right. Who is this kid?
All right, kiddo. Thank you very much for playing with me. Go get him.
Go get him.
Go get him. Woof, woof, woof. We always talk at the exact same time.
You should keep that in.
Woof, woof.
Woof, woof.
Bye, Em. I love you. Good luck on your flight.
I love you. I'll see you in a few hours.
I love it. Excellent. See you in the States.
See you later.
Alligator.
Skater.
Welcome to episode